If a police officer came to your door and told you that you were being scammed, who would you believe? An elderly couple in Wuhan chose to trust the scammers and shut the real police out. As a result, 1.8 million yuan in cash was handed to strangers twice and vanished completely. And what's even more unbelievable came next. I am Record Officer Number 11. What I archived today is a suitcase that once held 1.8 million yuan in cash. 2025, Wuhan, Hubei, China. 72-year-old Mr. Ming and his wife had been retired for years. Their children no longer lived nearby. The greatest asset they had was the retirement savings they had spent a lifetime building. No one knew that a single phone call would make it all disappear. May 12th, 2025, 6 p.m. Several police officers knocked on the door of a residence. They had received an alert from the anti-fraud center. Someone had just withdrawn 200,000 yuan in cash from a bank and had refused to explain what the money was for. The police asked.
钱呢?
The elderly man replied.
看病以后要用.
The officers kept asking questions, but the elderly man became increasingly resistant. He even refused to let them inspect the cash. To the police, these were classic signs of a scam victim. But strangely enough, the man insisted.
我们没被骗.
Meanwhile, another team of detectives was tracking a young woman. She had just checked into a guest house in Wuhan. She had arrived from overseas, in her 20s. She looked like an ordinary international student, but investigators discovered that she had been in frequent contact with an overseas fraud syndicate. And, even more coincidentally, surveillance footage showed that just a few hours earlier, she had left the elderly couple's residential complex, pulling a suitcase behind her. Mr. Ming personally escorted her downstairs. The suitcase was noticeably heavier than before. Police immediately realized inside it was most likely cash. During questioning, the woman finally spoke. She said,
自己只是来中国旅游，顺便帮王佑去点东西。
The police asked.
去的什么?
She replied.
不知道，一个箱子。
At this moment, something truly shocking emerged for the investigators. They discovered that what the elderly couple had handed over was far more than 200,000 yuan. At the first meeting, they had already handed over a sum of money. At the second meeting, they handed over more than 800,000 yuan. In total, nearly 1.8 million RMB, about 250,000 US dollars. And even at this point, the elderly man still believed he had not been scammed. The story goes back 2 weeks earlier. The elderly man's wife, Mrs. Lin, received a phone call. The caller claimed to be a police officer. He told her someone was using her identity to register a phone number and that she was involved in a major fraud case. The voice on the phone was firm. He even accurately stated a badge number. Then they asked her to join a video call. The video connected. On the screen appeared several men in police uniforms. Behind them was the emblem of a public security bureau. Mrs. Lin panicked. She believed it. Brainwashing begins. In the following days, the so-called task force ordered her to keep everything secret. She was not allowed to tell her family, not allowed to tell her friends. She had to download a specific app and report her status every day, once in the morning, once at noon, once at night, just like a real investigation. Slowly, the scammers replaced her family and became the people she trusted the most. A few days later, the scammers told her a bank account had been discovered in Guangzhou. It contained over 3 million yuan in fraudulent funds, and the account was registered under her name. Mrs. Lin desperately tried to explain. She had never even been to Guangzhou, but they wouldn't listen. Then came their solution.
需要和查险进序列好，证明你的钱不是赃款。
It sounds absurd now, but after more than 10 days of psychological manipulation, Mrs. Lin had already lost her ability to judge. So she withdrew 900,000 yuan in cash and handed it over to the so-called task force. The scammers soon told her,
你的钱没问题，但你丈夫的钱还需要核查。
So on May 12th, Mr. Ming withdrew another 860,000 yuan in cash and handed it to the same courier. Meanwhile, the real anti-fraud center was desperately trying to reach them, but the couple refused to believe it, because the scammers had already warned them the ones who will contact you next are actually the fraudsters. That night, the couple tried to contact the task force again, but the chat group had disappeared. The phone line was unreachable. The video account had been deleted. In that moment, they finally realized the truth. They had been scammed. More than 1.8 million yuan had completely vanished. And at this point in the story, an even more unbelievable twist emerged. The woman responsible for collecting the cash told police the money was stolen. Investigators were stunned. The scam proceeds had actually been stolen again by someone else. The investigation revealed shortly after she received the cash, she was intercepted by 4 men, forced into an SUV. The suitcase was taken. Even her phone was seized. The detectives tracked them step by step, from Wuhan to Xianing in Hubei, then onward to Anhui province. In the end, they made a shocking discovery. The people who robbed the money were also members of the same fraud network. Due to a dispute over how the money should be split, the group had turned on each other. What followed was a brutal internal collapse. A fraud ring robbing another fraud ring, dirty money stealing dirty money, a case of criminals preying on criminals. 59 hours later, all 4 suspects were arrested. Police recovered part of the stolen funds. But the trust the elderly couple had lost was far harder to restore. In a later interview, Mrs. Lin said,
翻诈中心给我打过电话，真正的警察来国家里，可我谁都不信。
Because the most successful part of the scam was never just stealing the money. It was making the victims believe that everyone trying to help them was the real scammer. I am Record Officer number 011. The evidence I archived today was an empty suitcase. It once held 1.8 million yuan in cash. Later, it carried the lies of scammers. And after that, it carried the greed of another group of criminals. But what was truly stolen was never just the money. It was a person's ability to tell truth from deception. If someone tells you, don't trust the police, don't trust your family, only trust them, then the one you should be suspicious of is precisely that person.